7 armed men rode toward an old widow's ranch to take her land.
Widow Miller. I hold the lawful deed to this property. Come out onto the porch, and we can handle this like civilized folk.
But only one saw the Winchester waiting on the roof.
What in the hell was that?
Morning was cold and gray when Cora Miller stood on the porch, watching a thin trail of dust rise beyond the valley. 10 miles away, 7 riders were coming toward her ranch, and they were not coming to talk. Their leader, Gideon Vance, intended to take the land her family had worked for years to keep. He knew her son was away. He expected an aging widow to surrender before the first shot was fired. But Gideon did not know the woman he was riding toward. Cora had already lost a husband, a daughter, and much of what the prairie had taken from her.
I won't let them take anything else from me.
And before those 7
Widow
men
Miller.
reached her gate, Cora was about to show them something they never expected. The dust devil swirling near the porch carried the sharp, unmistakable scent of spent gunpowder and coming rain. Cora stood perfectly still at the edge of the timber steps, her worn hands wiping flour onto a linen apron. The riders were still a long way out, but the old hound at her feet had already bared his yellow teeth at the western ridge. They crossed the river at dawn, Cora, Hiram said. He leaned heavily against the porch rail, his breathing labored from a hard ride. Cora did not look at him immediately. She kept her eyes fixed on the horizon, watching the thin ribbon of dust rising against the graying sky. How many? 7, Hiram answered. His voice was quiet. It was not the quiet of a calm man, but of a man who knew the odds and found them entirely lacking. Gideon leads them. He bought the debts from the bank in town. Now he is coming to collect the land, one way or the other. This land is fully paid for, Cora said. Josiah made sure of that before he passed. Gideon does not care about the law. He cares about the valley, and your property sits right across the only steady water for 20 miles. Hiram pushed himself off the rail. Ride into town with me. Let the sheriff handle this. Cora finally turned to look at him. She was 52 years old, her hair graying at the temples and pulled back tight against the persistent prairie wind. She had buried a daughter to fever and a husband to time. She was not a woman who frightened easily, mostly because she had already survived the worst things the world could do to a person. The sheriff is a good man, Hiram, she said gently, but he is young, and he is one man with a badge. Gideon is bringing 7 men with rifles. I will not put a boy in the ground for my acreage. Inside the house, a floorboard creaked. Cora smoothed her apron. Stay for breakfast, Hiram. Eli is putting on the coffee. Hiram shook his head, looking toward the open door with a heavy sorrow. I cannot stay, Cora, and you cannot stay either. They will be here by mid-afternoon. Then I have chores to finish. When Hiram rode away, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Cora walked back into the warmth of the kitchen. The cast-iron stove radiated heat. The smell of roasting coffee beans filled the small room, masking the distant scent of the coming storm. Eli stood by the stove. He was 28, tall and broad-shouldered. He had his mother's quiet eyes, but he carried himself with the strict, disciplined posture of his father. Captain Josiah Miller had served with the 4th Cavalry. In the bitter winter of '69, he had been tasked with escorting a civilian wagon train through the perilous mountain passes of the Dakota Territory. He had held a narrow choke point for 3 days against overwhelming odds, a captain refusing to abandon the families relying on his rifle. Josiah had brought them all through alive. He never spoke of the medals he received. He kept them in a cigar box under the floorboards, preferring the quiet life of a cattle rancher. He had taught Eli how to work the land, and he had taught Cora how to shoot. Hiram looked spooked. Eli said, pouring a cup of dark coffee and handing it to his mother. Hiram is getting old, Cora said, taking the warm tin cup. The wind bothers his joints. Eli leaned against the counter. He took a slow sip of his own coffee, his gaze drifting to the window. I need to ride out to the north pasture today. The fence by the creek washed out in the last storm. Some of the yearlings might wander into the bog. Cora felt a sudden, sharp ache in her chest. The north pasture was a 4-hour ride. If Eli left now, he would be far away when Gideon and his men arrived. He would be safe. She could face the riders alone. You should go, Cora said. Her voice was steady. Take the roan. He needs the exercise." Eli frowned. He set his cup down on the wooden table. "You sure? I was going to fix the barn door first. The hinges are rusted through. The door can wait." Cora offered a small, convincing smile. "Those yearlings cannot. Go on, Eli. I have plenty of baking to do today. I will be perfectly fine here." Eli studied her. He had grown up watching his mother hold this ranch together through droughts, blizzards, and grief. He knew her rhythms. He knew when she was carrying a heavy burden. But he also knew she rarely asked for help unless she truly needed it. "All right," Eli said softly. "I'll pack some jerky. Should be back before supper." "Take your time," Cora said. "If the rain catches you, take shelter at the old line shack. Do not ride through the storm just to get home." She walked with him to the barn. The morning air was cooling rapidly. Eli saddled the roan horse, his movements practiced and unhurried. Cora watched him, committing the sight to memory, the angle of his jaw, the way he patted the horse's neck. She felt a profound, overwhelming love for her son, entirely mixed with the terrible knowledge that she might not be standing on the porch when he returned. When Eli finally rode out, tipping his hat to her as he cleared the front gate, Cora waited until he was nothing but a speck against the vast green ocean of the prairie. Then she turned back to the house. She did not go to the kitchen. She went to the bedroom she had shared with Josiah. She knelt beside the heavy oak bed frame and pulled back the braided rug. Beneath the floorboards lay a long, canvas-wrapped bundle. Cora pulled it out. She unwrapped the heavy canvas with careful, deliberate hands. The Model 1873 Winchester lever-action rifle gleamed in the dim light. It was meticulously oiled and perfectly maintained. Beside it lay a leather bandolier heavy with brass cartridges. She carried the rifle to the kitchen table. She sat down and began to load it, one shell at a time. The metallic clicks echoed loudly in the empty house. Gideon was bringing 7 men. He expected an old widow in an apron, crying over a piece of paper. He expected an easy surrender. Cora stood up. She slung the bandolier over her shoulder. She walked out the back door and looked up at the roof of the farmhouse. The stone chimney rose high, offering a perfect, unobstructed view of the valley. A solid brick wall facing the main road. 7 men. Cora whispered to the wind. Josiah held off 20. She walked toward the ladder leaning against the barn. She had 3 hours to prepare. The climb up the wooden ladder was slow. Cora took it one rung at a time. The Winchester was slung tight across her back. In one hand, she carried a tin bucket of fresh water. Her heavy canvas pockets sagged with the weight of extra cartridges. The farmhouse roof was steeply pitched, but Josiah had built a flat, sturdy section near the stone chimney years ago. He had told the neighbors it was for sweeping the soot before winter. Cora knew the truth. A military man always builds a high ground. She reached the top and settled behind the thick stones. The view from up here was vast and beautiful. The valley stretched out in shades of amber and fading green. The wind was picking up, carrying the cold promise of rain. Cora arranged her supplies carefully. Water bucket to her left, ammunition box to her right. The rifle rested across her lap. She began to measure the yard in her mind, just as Josiah had taught her on quiet Sunday afternoons. The front gate is 60 yards. The old oak tree is 90. The edge of the creek bed is 150. She recited the distances aloud, her voice steady against the wind. Knowing the distance meant knowing how much the bullet would drop. It was simple math. It removed the emotion from the act. That was what Josiah used to say anyway. Cora wondered if he had actually believed it. She looked at her hands. They were trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the sudden, immense weight of what she was about to do. She had baked bread in this valley. She had delivered foals in the barn. She had never pointed a weapon at a human being. "Lord," she whispered, looking up at the gray sky, "give them the sense to turn around. And if they lack the sense, give me the steady hand to make them." 10 miles to the east, the riders were not turning around. Gideon rode at the front of the pack. He was a large man who wore expensive coats and a constant, confident smile. He had bought up 3 ranches in the valley this year. He preferred buying them for pennies after the owners ran into trouble. If the trouble did not arrive naturally, Gideon made sure it found them. Behind him rode 6 men. They were a rough collection of hired guns. Most of them were young and eager for wages. Jasper, riding to Gideon's right, was barely 20. He kept drawing his pistol to check the cylinder anxious for a fight. "Put that away, Jasper," Gideon said, not even looking back. "You'll shoot your own horse. This isn't a war. It's an eviction." Hiram said the widow is stubborn. Jasper replied, holstering the gun, said she might not take the paper kindly. Gideon laughed. "She is a widow, son. What is she going to do? Hit me with a rolling pin?" We ride up, we show her the deed, and we give her an hour to pack a wagon. If she fusses, we burn the barn. Simple. At the rear of the group rode a man named Tobias. He was older than the rest, his face deeply lined from years in the sun. He did not laugh at Gideon's jokes. He watched the horizon. He watched the tree lines. He noticed how the birds were flying low, seeking shelter from the changing pressure in the air. Tobias had been in the valley long enough to remember Captain Josiah Miller. He remembered the quiet, hard-eyed man who used to buy supplies in town. He remembered how Miller stood, always perfectly balanced, always aware of the room. Men like that did not leave soft widows behind. Tobias nudged his horse forward, bringing it alongside Gideon. "Boss," he said quietly, "Miller's boy is fully grown now. He's big, and he works that land hard." "I know about Eli," Gideon said dismissively. "My scout said he rides to the north pasture every Tuesday." "We timed this perfectly, Tobias. The boy is gone. It is just the old woman." "Even so," Tobias said. He kept his voice low. "Might be smart to approach from the tree line, not the main road." Gideon stopped his horse. He turned in the saddle and looked at Tobias with mild annoyance. "I own this land now. I do not sneak onto my own property through the bushes. We ride right up the center road. We want her to see us coming." Tobias did not argue. He simply slowed his horse, letting the eager younger men pass him. He slipped a hand down to his saddlebag, quietly unbuckling the leather strap that held his heavy repeater rifle. If Gideon wanted to march up the front road like a brass band, he could do it. Tobias intended to keep his eyes open. Eli rode the roan at a steady, unhurried pace. The wind was biting his neck. The sky ahead was turning a deep, bruised purple. He had covered 3 miles since leaving the house. The land here was flat and open. He let his mind wander to the chores waiting for him tomorrow. He thought about the barn hinges. He thought about his mother's quiet mood that morning. He pulled back on the reins, bringing the roan to a halt. He frowned, looking down at the saddle horn. Something was nagging at the back of his mind. A piece of a puzzle that did not quite fit. Hiram had been at the house. Hiram never rode out before noon unless it was Sunday service. And Hiram's horse had been lathered in sweat, meaning he had run the animal hard. Then there was his mother. She had told him to check the north fence because of the storm, but she had also told him to take shelter at the line shack if it rained. If the fence was truly broken, the yearlings would wander away during the storm. If it was an emergency, she would have told him to fix it and drive the herd back, no matter the weather. Instead, she had just wanted him gone. Eli's chest tightened. He remembered the way she had looked at him by the gate. It was the exact same look she had given his father the day Josiah passed. A look that tried to memorize a face. "No," Eli breathed. He jerked the reins hard. The roan snorted in protest as Eli spun him around. He kicked his spurs gently into the horse's sides, urging it into a fast canter back the way they had come. He did not know what was waiting at the farmhouse, but he knew his mother was facing it alone. The first drop of rain hit the stone chimney with a soft tap. Cora flinched. She looked up. The sky finally broke. A slow, cold drizzle began to fall over the valley. She pulled her wool shawl tighter around her shoulders. The wood shingles beneath her were growing slick. She wiped a drop of water from the barrel of the Winchester. She had to keep the breech dry. Down in the yard, the old hound stood up. He walked to the center of the dirt path, faced the main road, and let out a low, rumbling growl. Cora shifted her weight. She pressed her cheek against the cold wooden stock of the rifle. She closed her left eye. She peered through the iron sights. Through the light rain, she saw them. They crested the small hill a half-mile away. 7 riders. They were spread out in a loose, confident formation. Cora took a slow, deep breath. The cold air filled her lungs. She let it out in a steady stream. 60 yards, she whispered to herself. She would not fire early. She would not fire a warning shot. Josiah had been very clear about that. A warning shot only tells the enemy you lack the nerve to hit them. If you pull the trigger, Cora, you make it count. She watched them approach. They were taking their time. They looked like men riding to a festival, not a fight. The large man in the center was laughing at something the boy next to him had said. Cora felt a sudden flare of anger. It cut through the cold and the fear. This was her home. She had buried her family in this soil. She had bled for this land, and these men were laughing as they came to steal it. She tracked the large man in the center with the tip of her iron sights. She waited. 200 yards, 150 yards. Down below, the hound began to bark. A frantic, sharp sound. The riders slowed. They were nearing the front gate. The old oak tree was just ahead of them. 90 yards. Gideon halted his horse just outside the wooden gate. He looked at the quiet farmhouse. No smoke came from the kitchen chimney. The front door was firmly shut. "Widow Miller," Gideon shouted. His voice carried easily over the sound of the rain. "This is Gideon Vance. I hold the lawful deed to this property. Come out onto the porch, and we can handle this like civilized folks." Cora did not move. She kept the sights perfectly aligned with the center of Gideon's expensive wool coat. "I am giving you 5 minutes, widow," Gideon yelled. He motioned to the young boy, "Jasper. Then my men are coming inside to help you pack." Jasper grinned. He spurred his horse forward, pushing open the wooden gate with his boot. He rode into the yard, moving past the 90-yard mark. 80 yards, 70 yards. Jasper drew his pistol. He aimed it at the barking hound. "Shut up, you flee back," he yelled, thumbing the hammer back. Cora's finger tightened on the trigger. 60 yards. The Winchester roared. The sound tore through the quiet drizzle, echoing off the valley walls like a crack of summer thunder. Cora did not aim for the young boy's chest. She shifted her sights at the very last second. The heavy bullet caught Jasper high in the right shoulder. The impact lifted him entirely out of the saddle. He hit the muddy ground hard, his unfired pistol flying into the wet grass. The hound scrambled backward, barking wildly at the sudden noise. Down at the gate, panic erupted. Horses reared and whinnied in sudden terror. Gideon's confident smile vanished. He jerked hard on his reins, struggling to control his panicked mare. He reached clumsily beneath his heavy wool coat for his own gun. He was too slow. Up on the roof, Cora did not pause to watch Jasper fall. She did not gasp. Her hands moved strictly from memory. She pulled the lever down and slammed it back up. The spent brass casing spun through the cold air. The action fed a fresh cartridge into the chamber. Cora settled the iron sights squarely on Gideon. She exhaled. She pulled the trigger. The second shot took Gideon squarely in the chest. He dropped his weapon before he even had a firm grip on it. He slumped forward, sliding off his horse like a heavy sack of grain. He landed face down in the mud, right beside the wooden gate he had threatened to break. 5 men remained. Total chaos consumed them. 2 of the hired guns instantly turned their horses and spurred them violently toward the creek bed, abandoning their boss without a second thought. Another man, younger and terrified, fired wildly at the farmhouse's front windows. His bullets shattered the glass, chewing into the kitchen walls, hitting nothing but empty chairs and iron pots. Tobias did not panic. He did not fire blindly. The moment the first shot echoed, Tobias threw himself sideways off his horse. He hit the wet dirt rolling, clutching his heavy repeater rifle tight to his chest. He scrambled on his hands and knees, dragging himself behind the thick oak planks of the water trough near the porch. He pressed his back against the wet wood. He breathed slowly. He listened. The terrified young man was still emptying his revolver at the front door. "Come out," the young man screamed, his voice cracking with fear. "Come out, you crazy old witch." Tobias knew better. A woman blindly firing from a kitchen window would not have dropped Gideon so cleanly. She would not have transitioned between targets so smoothly. That kind of shooting required an unobstructed view. It required discipline. It required high ground. Tobias ignored the shattered windows. He tilted his head back and looked higher. Through the light rain, past the edge of the porch roof, he saw it. A thin wisp of gray smoke curling away from the right side of the stone chimney, and resting perfectly steady against the brick, the dull steel barrel of a Winchester rifle. 7 gunmen had ridden toward the old widow's ranch. Only one saw the Winchester on the roof. Tobias leveled his own rifle. He rested it on the edge of the water trough. He took a steady breath, aligning his sights with the right edge of the chimney. He squeezed the trigger. Up on the roof, Cora saw the flash of the muzzle below. She flinched backward a fraction of a second before the bullet struck. The round smashed into the brick directly beside her face. A sharp chunk of stone exploded outward. It sliced across her cheek, drawing a sudden, hot line of blood. Cora dropped flat against the slick shingles. Her heart hammered wildly against her ribs. The metallic taste of fear flooded her mouth. She pressed her hand to her cheek. Her fingers came away wet and red. "Breathe," she told herself. "Just breathe." Down below, Tobias worked the lever of his rifle. He fired twice more. The bullets skipped off the roof tiles, sending dangerous splinters of wood flying into the air. "She is on the roof," Tobias shouted to the remaining men. "Behind the chimney. Stop shooting at the damn door and fan out." The terrified young man finally stopped firing at the kitchen. He dropped his empty revolver and drew a second one, scrambling toward the side of the house to get a better angle. Cora heard footsteps splashing in the mud below. They were moving. If they flanked the house, she would lose her cover entirely. The chimney only protected her from the front. She crawled slowly to the left side of the chimney, her stomach pressed flat against the cold, wet wood. She peered over the edge. The young man was running toward the barn, hoping to find an angle on the roof. Cora rested the barrel on the left side of the brick. She did not want to kill him. She just wanted him to leave. She fired a shot into the mud directly ahead of his boots. The young man stopped dead. He looked at the hole in the earth. He looked up at the roof. He dropped his gun in the mud, turned around, and ran as fast as he could toward the open road. That left only Tobias behind the water trough and Jasper groaning in the dirt by the gate. The rain began to fall harder, washing the blood down Cora's neck. The cold wind bit at her soaked clothes. She lay perfectly still behind the chimney, waiting for Tobias to make a move. She had 4 rounds left in the gun before she needed to reload from her heavy pockets. She knew Tobias was a professional. He had not panicked. He had found her immediately. He would not run, and he would not make a foolish mistake. A heavy, suffocating silence fell over the ranch. The only sounds were the steady patter of rain on the roof and the low, pained whimpers of the wounded boy near the gate. A mile away, Eli heard the faint, muffled pops of gunfire. He pulled the roan to a violent halt. He sat frozen in the saddle, his head tilted, straining to listen over the wind. 1, 2, a pause, then a flurry of answering shots. The sound came from the south. It came from home. Eli's stomach plummeted. A cold dread washed over him, completely freezing his veins. He had known something was wrong. He should never have left her. He kicked his spurs hard. The roan surged forward, its hooves tearing up clumps of wet earth. Eli leaned low over the horse's neck, pushing the animal to a dangerous, breakneck sprint. The wind whipped his hat away. He did not care. The rain stung his eyes. He did not blink. He drew his father's heavy Colt revolver from his holster. As the farmhouse came into view through the rain, Eli pulled the roan toward the thick line of cottonwood trees behind the barn. He could not ride straight into the yard. He did not know who held the ground. He tied the exhausted, heaving horse to a low branch. He moved on foot, keeping low, using the thick brush for cover. He reached the back wall of the barn. He crept to the edge and looked out into the yard. He saw 2 riderless horses standing near the front gate. He saw a man lying face down in the mud. Another young man was sitting in the dirt, clutching his shoulder, pale and shivering. Then he saw the water trough. An older man in a brown coat crouched tightly behind the thick wood. He held a repeater rifle, aiming it sharply upward. Eli followed the man's aim. His heart stopped. There, near the chimney, he saw the edge of his mother's wool shawl. She was pinned down. She was trapped on the wet roof, unable to move without catching a bullet from the man at the trough. Eli gripped his father's revolver tight. His knuckles turned white. He was a peaceful man. He loved the quiet work of farming. He loved the gentle rhythm of the seasons. But looking at the man threatening his mother, Eli felt a dark, violent surge of purely inherited instinct. He stepped out from behind the barn. He did not run. He walked slowly, deliberately, into the open yard behind Tobias. The heavy rain masked the sound of his boots in the mud. He stopped 15 feet behind the water trough. He raised the Colt revolver. He pulled the hammer back. The sharp metallic click cut clearly through the sound of the rain. Tobias froze. He did not turn around. He slowly lowered his rifle. "Drop it," Eli said. His voice was low. It was not a request. Tobias gently set the rifle in the mud. He kept his hands in plain sight. "Your mother is a fine shot, son," Tobias said quietly, staring straight ahead at the farmhouse. "Captain Miller taught her well." "Stand up," Eli ordered. Keep your hands high." Tobias stood up slowly. He raised his hands. Only then did he turn around to face the younger man. He saw the cold fury in Eli's eyes. He saw the heavy Colt aimed squarely at his chest. "It's over," Tobias said plainly. "Gideon is dead. The others ran. I am just a hired man, Eli. I hold no claim to this land, and I have no wish to die on it." Up on the roof, Cora heard her son's voice. A massive wave of relief crashed over her, so strong it nearly made her dizzy. She carefully stood up, keeping the Winchester leveled at Tobias. "Eli," she called out, her voice trembling for the very first time that day. Eli glanced up. He saw the blood on her face. His jaw tightened. "Get off this property," Eli said to Tobias. "Take the boy by the gate. Put him on a horse. If I ever see you in this valley again, I will not ask you to drop your gun." Tobias nodded slowly. Understood. He walked slowly toward the front gate. He helped the weeping Jasper to his feet and hoisted the boy onto a horse. Tobias did not look back as he mounted his own horse and rode slowly away down the muddy road, leaving Gideon's body in the dirt. Eli lowered his gun. He ran to the side of the house, waiting at the bottom of the ladder as his mother climbed down. When her boots finally touched the ground, she let the heavy rifle slip from her fingers. It fell into the grass. She collapsed into her son's arms. Eli held her tight. The heavy rain soaked through their clothes, but neither of them moved. Cora buried her face in her son's wet jacket. She let out a long, ragged breath. The iron discipline that had held her steady on the roof finally fractured. She wept. They were not tears of fear. They were tears of profound, exhausting relief. "I have you," Eli whispered, resting his chin against the crown of her head. "I am right here, Ma. It is over." He pulled back gently to look at her face. The rain was washing the blood down her cheek. The cut from the stone fragment was shallow, but it would leave a scar. Eli took his canvas handkerchief from his pocket and pressed it gently against the wound. Cora took the cloth from his hand and held it there herself. She looked past him toward the front gate. Gideon's body still lay in the mud. The two riderless horses had wandered over to the fence, chewing calmly on the wet grass as if nothing had happened. "We need to move him," Cora said, her voice finding its steady rhythm once more. "I will not have that man lying in my front yard when the storm passes." "I will handle it," Eli said. He stooped down and picked up the heavy Winchester from the wet grass. He wiped the mud from the wooden stock with his sleeve. He handed it to his mother. "Go inside. Stoke the stove. Put a heavy blanket around your shoulders." Cora nodded. She walked up the porch steps, her legs heavy and aching. She did not look back at the gate. An hour later, the sound of approaching wagons cut through the fading drizzle. Eli stood on the porch, a cup of hot coffee in his hand. He watched as Hiram rode into the yard, followed closely by a covered buckboard wagon. Beside Hiram rode Sheriff Hayes. The sheriff was a young man, barely 30, wearing a canvas duster that dragged over his saddle. Hiram pulled his horse to a stop. He looked at the shattered glass of the kitchen window. He looked at the mud, churned up by panicked horses. Then, he looked at the canvas tarp Eli had draped over Gideon's body near the tree line. Hiram let out a long, low whistle. He took off his hat and wiped the rain from his face. "I told you to wait for me, Cora," he called out to the open doorway. Cora stepped out onto the porch. She had changed into a dry cotton dress. A clean white bandage was taped to her cheek. "I did wait, Hiram," she said flatly. But the company arrived early. Sheriff Hayes dismounted. He walked over to the canvas tarp and pulled it back. He stared at Gideon's chest in silence. He covered the man back up and walked slowly toward the porch. He looked up at the stone chimney on the roof, then back down to Cora. "Tobias rode into town," Sheriff Hayes said, his voice quiet with disbelief. He turned himself in, said he wanted a safe cell before the widow Miller decided to come looking for him. "Tobias is a smart man," Cora said. "He told me Gideon brought a forged deed." The sheriff continued, stepping up onto the porch to escape the rain. "Said Gideon planned to run you off and claim the water rights. Tobias is willing to testify to the circuit judge. You are entirely clear of the law, Mrs. Miller." It was self-defense, plain as day. The young sheriff shook his head, looking at Cora with a newfound, immense respect. "But I have to ask, ma'am, how did you manage it?" "7 men." Cora looked out at the valley. The dark clouds were finally beginning to break, letting thin shafts of late afternoon sunlight pierce through the gray. "I did not fight 7 men, Sheriff," Cora said simply. "I shot the loudest one. The rest were just following a paycheck. Once the paycheck was dead, the fight was over." Hiram chuckled softly. He shook his head. "Josiah always said you had the coldest blood in the county when it came to a crisis." I guess he wasn't just bragging. They loaded Gideon's body into the buckboard wagon. The sheriff promised to send a man out the next day to help Eli fix the broken windows. When they finally rode away, the ranch fell quiet again. The next morning broke clear and bright. The sky was a brilliant, washed blue. Eli was up before dawn. He mended the front gate. He swept the broken glass from the kitchen floor. He fed the horses and gave the old hound an extra strip of dried bacon. When he walked back to the house, he found his mother sitting on the porch. She was drinking coffee from her favorite tin cup. The Winchester was nowhere in sight. Eli sat down in the wooden chair beside her. They watched the sun climb over the eastern ridge, casting long, golden shadows across the wet grass. The air smelled of damp earth and blooming sage. They sat in comfortable silence for a long time. It was the familiar silence of people who understood each other completely. Finally, Eli spoke. He did not look at her. He kept his eyes on the horizon. "You knew they were coming. You sent me away on purpose." Cora took a slow sip of her coffee. She set the cup on the porch rail. "Yes," she said. "I could have helped you," Eli said. His voice was thick with lingering emotion. "I should have been here. If Tobias had been faster. If I hadn't turned back when I did." He stopped, unable to finish the thought. "If you had been here," Cora said gently, "you would have stood at that front gate. You would have looked Gideon in the eye, and you would have drawn your gun." "It is my job to protect this family," Eli said, his jaw tightening. Cora reached out. She placed her warm, calloused hand over his. She gripped his fingers tightly. "Listen to me, Eli," she said. Her voice was fiercely tender. "Your father was a good man. He was a brave man. But the war took something from him that he never got back. I watched him carry the weight of the men he killed every single day of his life. He woke up in the dark, sweating and shaking. He carried a heavy shadow so we could live in the light." Eli looked at her. He saw the deep lines of sorrow around her eyes. "I am an old woman," Cora continued softly. "My life is mostly memory now, but yours is just beginning. If you had stood at that gate yesterday, you would have taken a life. Even if it was justified, even if it was right, it would have stained your soul. You would have carried that shadow forever." She reached up and touched the white bandage on her cheek. "I sent you away because I will not let that happen," Cora said. "I did this so your hands would stay clean. You are a farmer, Eli. You bring life out of the dirt. I will not let you become a killer just to keep it." Eli stared at his mother. The sheer magnitude of what she had done finally settled over him. She had not just risked her life to save the ranch. She had risked her life to save his conscience. She had taken the burden of violence onto herself, a final, heavy shield against a harsh world. Tears pricked the corners of Eli's eyes. He did not wipe them away. He turned his hand over and held hers tightly. "Thank you, Ma," he whispered. "You are welcome, my son," she said. They sat together as the morning warmed the valley. The cattle began to low in the far pasture. The chickens fussed in the yard. The ranch breathed again, steady and calm. Beneath the floorboards of the bedroom, the Winchester lay wrapped in heavy canvas. It was clean. It was oiled. It was put away. Cora picked up her coffee cup. She looked out over the land she loved, feeling the sun on her face. She had paid the final debt to the past. The future, bright and uncomplicated, finally belonged to them. And that's where we'll leave Cora and Eli, with the ranch quiet again and the Winchester safely tucked away beneath the floorboards. I hope this story gave you a chance to step away from the everyday for a little while and spend some time on that old prairie with them. I'd love to know where you were listening from today, maybe with a cup of coffee, relaxing at home, or settling in for the evening. And tell me honestly, did you expect Cora's decision to protect Eli by facing those 7 men herself? Let us know what country you're watching from. We always enjoy seeing how far these stories travel. If you enjoyed this one, consider liking and subscribing. Thanks for spending this time with me.